We're very privileged today to have Jay Pathak, who's the National Director of the Vineyard Churches in the USA. Hi there, Jay. Good to have you along.
So honored to be with you.
Hey, Jay, first of all, there'll be some people that don't know much about you. Love to hear just a little bit of your background and about your family and things like that. Tell us about you.
Well, I live in Arvada, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver. So kind of first train stop out of the center of the city. I've been married to my wife, Danielle, for a very long time. We met in high school. So,
Wow.
We've known each other a long time. And I have two daughters, Jasmine, who's my oldest, and she just graduated university, and Sophia, who's my youngest, and she just started in university. So and I live in a place that has somewhere around 320 days of sun a year. So
Wow.
People don't realize that about Denver. Super sunny, one of the sunniest places in all of America. Right at, if I could show you, I can see the mountains out my window here.
Fantastic.
So, great place to live. I love it.
So you're the National Director and also pastor at Mile High Vineyard in Denver. Have you always been a pastor? Did you just sort of come out of school and go straight into pastoring, or tell us about it?
I wish there was a simple way of answering that. I would say I wanted to be a lawyer. I was studying philosophy, ethics, and logic to do law. And my story isn't the common one in that I don't remember really ever wanting to be a pastor. It's just somewhere along the way, if you lead enough people to Christ, you're discipling them and you're reproducing leaders, people look at you and go, it sure looks like you're pastoring.
So you're pastor of Mile High Vineyard, and you have had various campuses like we have, and now you're National Director as well. Tell us about what it is like being National Director and how many churches that you oversee in the United States.
Well, we're in the U.S., we're always bumping up around 500 churches. So that's kind of the number we live around. So just a little bit above, just a little bit below. And then in Denver, we helped plant 4 other vineyard churches. We're all part of a family of neighborhood churches. We've released all those. We're dreaming about starting again. And then we've helped plant a number of actually non-vineyard churches in the city and around the country and around the world. So, we've always been for and into church planting as well.
Well, as you know, we are building a big new city campus building, and it's the first time we've done actually a build. Our people have been incredibly generous. We need to raise 25 million. We've already got 12, so we're sort of heading towards halfway. So
Incredible. Very
generous people, especially post-COVID with the economy the way it is and that sort of thing. But it seems very countercultural. How have you found this whole thing about raising money and inviting people in to be generous towards churches and building buildings?
Like when you start talking about the power of greed and how the only way you get healthy with money is if you learn how to give it away. Like that's the sign. Like it isn't even budgeting. It isn't even the management of money. You need to learn how to manage money. But you're managing money with the goal of giving it away. And, what we talk a lot about in our church is what does it mean to feel rich? There's a difference between being rich and feeling rich. And, in the U.S., I don't know how it would translate, but for the U.S., it's the stats are somewhere around $38,000 a year in household income. Wow. It means you're in the top 3% of income earners in the world.
Wow.
So that means that everyone in our church is rich. And when I teach on this, I'll say, and I'll, give those stats. And then I go, what's interesting is nobody cheered in the room. Nobody went, oh my goodness. I'm so glad I came to church today. I discovered I'm one of the wealthiest people and one of the wealthiest nations in all of human history. What an honor. What a privilege. Nobody cheers. And you know why they don't cheer? Because they don't feel rich. And the difference between being rich and feeling rich is, do I feel like I have enough? I'm grateful and I'm generous.
Yeah.
That's it. And everybody lives with the myth. If I could just have a little more, I just need a little more. And the vast majority of people, as you know, as they get older, make more money. And what's interesting about making more money? You find ways to spend more money.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, like, and so I think young people live with the myth that, I'm just young. I hardly have any money. I'm going to probably figure out a way to be generous when I have some.
That's the thing I hear all the time. I'm going to become very rich. When I'm rich,
Totally.
I'm going to be very, very generous to God. What's wrong with that thought?
Well, because first of all, you'll never feel rich. I mean, I make this joke that I've never felt more rich, never in my whole life, than when I was 14 years old. I was 14 years old. I got a job bagging groceries, and I got a check, my first check. And it was like $40.
Yeah.
And I rode my bike over to the little convenience store, and I bought candy and little whistles for everybody, all my friends. Everybody got a whistle, and everybody had candy.
Instant generosity.
When I was driving my bike back to where I know I was going to see my friends, feeling like I owned the world. Because I don't think from that moment to this one I've ever felt more rich. And you look at that now and go, $40, like, whatever. But it's because I felt free to give away. I had enough. But the scriptures are really clear that the great litmus test of your actual heart changing is money. It's a litmus test. Paul talking to the church says, as you've grown in every other way, also grow in the grace of giving. Jesus says, where your heart is, there your money will be also. Oh, actually, that's not what he says. See, I say it wrong on purpose because that's what we think the text says. We think the text says, oh, if your heart's with God, then your money will follow. Actually, that's not what the text says. The text says, where your money is, that's where your heart is.
Mm-hmm.
See, so if you want to grow in your heart for God, to know real peace, real freedom, real hope, real life, you want to get out of the anxious worrying of your life, be generous. Invest your money where you want your heart to go. My girls are in college. My youngest is at San Diego State. I have never cared about San Diego State at all. But now that I'm paying money there, I have
You're
gear.
an investor. You're an investor.
I'm watching their basketball team. I'm suddenly like I'm a San Diego State guy. Why? Because that's where my money's going. So
Exactly.
my heart's following. So I would say, in other words, you want to be in a great church. Like, do you want to be in an okay church? Or do you want to be in a great church? Do you want to love your church? Or do you want to just sort of like manage to go when you feel like it? So part of maturing is saying, no, I want to be in a great church. And one of the ways I know that I'm in a great church is I'm committed to this. And so my heart's going to change. I'm going to want this to do different kinds of things. So some of the community is just saying, what kind of life do I want to live and how's my money demonstrate that? So I think communally, it's simple math. I mean, what you can do alone doesn't even come close to what you can do with other people.
So true.
It's just not even close. It's not addition, it's multiplication. What happens when a church says we're getting our heart around the poor? We're going to get our heart around gathering more people who don't know Christ. I don't care how great an evangelist you are. I don't care how much you care about homelessness or sex trafficking or whatever. If you can invest the bit that you have with the amount of humans that you have, it is not like addition, it's multiplication. It's an exponent. And it goes through generations.
Yeah. So where does a person start, especially a young person? I hear a lot of young people who are students, as you said, it's, we're not as wealthy as the generation before. People say, I've got student loans, or they say, I'm saving up for a house. I just don't have spare money to be able to give away. What would you say to a person like that?
Well, the first thing I'd say is what I already said, which is you'll never have spare money. So if you're thinking there's a day you'll have spare money, I just want to say right now, that's not true. So good thought, just the wrong thought. I mean, I get it. I get how it feels. It's just not true.
Yeah.
Second thing I would say is it turns out you're already spending money. So if you're not spending any money, so you're like, honestly, let me tell you why I know I can't give. I don't spend any money. Fair enough. Okay. So somebody cooks for you, somebody houses you. Fair enough. But if you have a phone, if you have a Netflix account, if you go out to eat, if you go on vacation, if you put gas in a car, guess what? I don't know where that money's coming from. It's coming from somewhere and it's going through you.
That's right.
See, you're not accountable for all the money everybody has. You're not accountable for that. You're accountable for the money that's been entrusted to you. So look at what you're putting out and start somewhere. In our church, we've often challenged young people, what if you didn't have a Netflix account? Or if you're really honest, you have Netflix, Hulu, and Apple TV. What if you said,
that's right.
This is going to cost me a little, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm going to just have one of those. Or I'm going to walk to work so that I can save a tank of gas a month. Whatever it takes to sacrifice.
Young people may say, but why should I sacrifice? Like, why should I not have my money for me? Why should I be expected to give money to the church of the kingdom?
Precisely. Why would you? I mean, listen, like if you're not a follower of Jesus, okay, so like let's make this really simple. If you don't have any life with God, well, then this isn't a useful conversation. Okay, like I don't know. I actually think I can make a decent case even for someone who doesn't follow Jesus, that if you want to make a difference in the world, there's probably no better bet than the church. So even if you don't believe any of it, if you look at a city and go, who really cares for the poor? Like for real? Who mobilizes volunteers? Who does that? It's always the church. So even if you're like, I don't believe any of this stuff, but I want to help, it's probably a good investment. But if you're a follower of Jesus, well, the most simple understanding of discipleship is self-denial. Like there is literally not a single thing that will produce fruit in your life that doesn't require self-denial. Period. I mean, like prayer, having a good friendship, having a decent marriage, having a healthy body. I mean, just like name anything you want, okay, that is worth it.
Yep, takes energy.
So,
takes
self-denial. It's a central component of the teaching of Jesus, of how you grow. By the way, it's the way you got life with Jesus. For God so loved the world that he gave. He gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish but have everlasting life. All we're doing when we're being generous is getting freed up and living a fuller life in the kingdom. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Great news. Like there are plenty of people who are like, I think I have the amount of peace I would like. I have the amount of hope that's sufficient for me. And I say in our church all the time, if you want to be a guest in our church, you're welcome forever. You can come and eat the muffins, enjoy the kids' care. We will take care of you. We really will. It's totally fine. Like we love you and we want you. But everyone knows there's a difference between being a guest and being in the family. Because family pays bills and does chores. That's what family does. And if you don't want to be family, I mean, I don't know about you. I like being a guest in other people's homes. I don't.
People running around waiting on you.
Yeah, it feels good. I mean, so I get it. Listen, I get it. And if that's where you're at, I get it. However, you and I both know there's stuff that happens after the party's done and you're doing the dishes and you're wiping the counters and you're telling stories. There's something that happens in that moment that's more meaningful than every guest experience you've ever had.
So good. That's so good.
It's just how it works.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to be a grown-up, you don't have to be. What's amazing about how church works is we're going to love you anyway. Like, there's no compulsion here. There's no like, we're going to try and make you feel guilty. That doesn't work. That doesn't make for healthy disciples. But it is weird. We all have that one friend who never has their wallet when you go out to eat. We all do.
Long pockets and short hands.
Yeah, totally. We all have that friend. I mean, and by the way, if you don't have that friend, you're that friend. Because there's so many people like that. It's okay. And that doesn't mean they won't be our friend. But it means they might not get all of our heart. It means there's a depth we miss.
So where does a person start? What do you think about tithing? Obviously, tithing's an Old Testament thing. It was sort of like a guideline. Where do you start in the New Testament as a New Testament Christian, as a believer in Jesus, as a Spirit-filled Christian? Where do we start and how do we continue?
Yeah, David, because I love the Bible and I try to take my job really seriously, I've studied this stuff. There's different positions. People have various ways of understanding what of the Old Testament moves forward, what's now been done away with, now that we're under a new covenant. And in this particular area of teaching, I have studied and read, I don't even know how much. And I got to be honest, I'm persuaded by all of it. Okay, like I have a really hard time falling in one of the neat categories that I find different theologians and pastors in.
Yep.
And so what I would want to say is, under the assumption that the Old Testament is being carried forward, the argument there would be Jesus says, you've heard about these guys that give 10%, and you should do that, and maybe even do more. You should do one without neglecting the other. And he's basically referring to tithing. So it seems as though the argument is he's carrying that forward into how he understands teaching. However, I understand how you might say, no, under grace, the law has been abolished and whatever. So here's what I would say. If people who did not have the Son of God sacrifice his life for them, and they're not filled with the Spirit, had 10% as the standard, how much more then should we, as people full of the Spirit, walking with God and with a Spirit-filled people, because the blood of Christ has cleansed us, how much more then should we be generous? And so that means even if 10% is not a standard, let's say, that argument, well, then it's at least the floor. It's at least the floor. I mean, in one sense, to believe the Old Testament teaching carries forward is a bit of a relief, because you're like, gosh, I just do the 10% and I'm good. Yeah. People are like, I'm not under the law. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Then you should give way more. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I do want to be under the law. Okay, so my point is either 10% is the standard or it's the floor. The case I would make is it's probably the floor. Now, I understand if you've never given, you say, gosh, how do I do this? And I would say start anywhere. Start with any kind of sacrifice, anywhere, and just keep asking yourself, what does it mean to grow in the grace of giving? I hope this doesn't sound overly spiritual or arrogant, but Danielle and I, in our life, every year ask, how can we be more generous than the year before? We ask that every single year. We sit down, we look at our numbers, and I guess I would talk to those of you who would fashion yourself as leaders. If you say, I'm a leader in my business, I'm a leader in my family, I'm a leader in my church, or I lead a small group, I would say that then leaders are always saying, how can I keep growing? That's what leaders do. Leaders don't say, I've kind of arrived, and so I'll just dispense my magical wisdom, to anyone who's listening. Leadership's about momentum. It's about momentum. It's about how you're moving. And it's possible to have everything and yet be retracting, going backward, getting stale, getting cold. And so leaders at least should always be asking, how do I keep growing? I think every disciple should. So if you're like, man, I've cut my Netflix budget, I'm giving that. It's $8 a month. It's no money. But it's a start. And then you say, okay, but what would 10% be? How could I get there over this 6 months or over this year? And I know this sounds super spiritual, but ask God for it. God, help me. And just like anything else you'd want to grow in, be accountable. And you want to grow in prayer, you say to your small group, I'm trying to learn how to pray. Can someone pray with me? You say that to a friend. Why not in giving? Why not say, I got to be really honest, I've not been a generous person. I want to be. here's where I'm starting. Is this something we could talk about? Could you help me? Because you seem to be a generous person.
That's so good.
I think you can grow. You can grow in this.
Jay, that has just been fantastic. Thank you so, so much for all that gold that you've been giving us, all that wisdom. Very, very grateful. And I'm going to ask whether or not we might be able to have you back again next week and we just continue this conversation.
I'm in, man. Let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.